My mother-in-law accused me of sleeping around because my daughter has dark skin and my husband is white, but he didn't say anything, so I slapped his mother so hard she's seeing stars and now he has a problem with it. Posted by you/individual_savings32. For context, my husband is white and I am mixed. My mom is Puerto Rican and my dad is white. My mom has very dark skin and my dad is quite fair. I'm pretty white passing, which, for those who don't know, means you can't really tell that I am Latina unless I tell you. A running family joke is that melanin skips a generation because my maternal grandpa is also very fair, but my maternal great-grandma is very brown. With that out of the way, I'll get into my situation. I have been with my husband for 7 years, married for 5. We have a 3-year-old little girl who is the light of my life. When she was born, she had a head full of dark brown curls, dark brown eyes, and a fairly olive complexion. She looks like me when I get tan. You can definitely tell she's part Latina. Despite knowing all this, my mother-in-law has gotten it into her head that my daughter isn't my husband's. She's been telling anyone who will listen that I must have had an affair because there's no way her son's child could be that color. Yeah, how nice. My mother-in-law has always been standoffish with me. She never made a big effort to get to know me and was always more polite than anything else. My mother-in-law has made some offhanded comments before about Latinos, but my husband would brush them off because she's from another time. I wanted to write off her behavior as just her not being educated enough. I realize now that was my mistake because it gave her the okay to keep going. When my husband and I heard from my sister-in-law that my mother-in-law was saying this, we invited her over to talk about it. I was really hoping we'd be able to fix this. However, what happened was my mother-in-law going on a rant for about 15 minutes. It consisted of her outing herself as a racist, saying she knew girls like me couldn't control themselves, that she knew from the start what would happen, and criticizing the nerve I had to pass my daughter off as hers. She also used some very colorful slurs. My husband and I were frozen in shock because she hadn't even stepped into the house and was just screeching on our doorstep. What snapped me out of it was when she started to insult my mom, saying she probably did the same to my dad. I don't know what came over me next. I've never hit someone before, but I ended up smacking her so hard her glasses fell off. That's what got my husband to start talking, or rather, yelling at his mother and me for acting this way while my mother-in-law started to wail. Yes, I shouldn't have hit her, I know, that's wrong. But hearing him imply I was in the wrong the same way my mother-in-law was made me angrier. I told him he's just as much a racist as his mom if he was trying to make me out to be as bad as her. I got my keys from inside the house while he was trying to calm his mom down and left. I drove to a hotel and spent the night there. Now it's the afternoon and I haven't left the hotel room since checking in. My husband and several other friends and family have been trying to reach me. I only replied to my sister-in-law to tell her I'm safe at a hotel and asked her not to tell my husband where I am. Guilt is starting to sink in, and I'm questioning everything. Did I allow my mother-in-law to do this? Did I showcase behavior that made her think I was cheating? Does my husband think I cheated, and that's why mother-in-law has this in her head? And, of course, should I be apologizing to my husband for hitting my mother-in-law? I know violence is wrong, and I hate making excuses, but I just couldn't handle someone talking about my family that way. Update 1. Thank you to everyone who gave very insightful advice. I spent quite a bit of time reflecting and was able to get an emergency meeting with my therapist this morning. I only have my sister here, as my parents moved back to Puerto Rico to be with my grandparents 5 years ago. Here are some questions I want to answer quickly. How old are we? My husband is 28, and I just celebrated my 30th birthday. We met when he was 21, and I was 23. Where was my daughter? I sent her to my sister's on Friday for a weekend sleepover with her family. I picked her up Monday afternoon, and we had a little mommy-daughter time by going to her favorite place, Costco. Yes, my 3-year-old loves Costco. We got home around 7 after having dinner. My husband was waiting, and I told him we'd talk after our daughter went to bed. Once she was certainly asleep, we sat and had a long conversation not just about the fight and his mother, but also about race and culture. I saw how my family was treated based on skin color, and while my husband understands racism, he admitted to never really grasping the complexities, especially colorism. A lot of you suggested that I take my daughter and leave or predicted that he'd leave me. Sorry to disappoint, but no, we're not getting a divorce or anything of the sort. My husband apologized for not standing up for me before and during the incident, acknowledging that he didn't want to think of his mother in a racist light. I also apologized for hitting her because, in the end, it doesn't help us. He forgave me and said that if it wasn't his mom saying it, he'd probably slap them too. We decided to go to a marriage counselor, hoping to find one that specializes in interracial marriages. Our daughter is going to face challenges in the future because of her race. It's sad to say, but unfortunately, racism is still alive. We want to know how to protect her and uplift her so she does not feel ashamed of her heritage. We've made the decision to go no contact with my mother-in-law and any people who try to bridge communication between us and her. She will have no contact with my daughter unless it's years down the road and she shows significant changes in her behavior. My husband will be driving to her house tomorrow to inform her of our decision. I consider a paternity test and DNA test, but only if my mother-in-law pays. I don't want to entertain this on my own dime. We've also decided not to make any public posts regarding this. If people want to believe her story, that is on them, not us. My husband knows our baby is his. The irony is she looks more like him than me. Her curls are even from him. I do hope this is my last update. If anything else happens, I might come back. Thank you again to everyone who gave valuable advice. I'm sad my daughter won't have a grandmother in the States, but it's more reason for us to plan trips to Puerto Rico. Update 2. Hello everyone, I think I jinxed myself by saying I hope this will be my last update, because unfortunately, for lack of a better term, the situation continues to deteriorate. For those of you saying I should be arrested for slapping my mother-in-law, I hate to disappoint, but she is not pressing charges. This is all thanks to my husband, who said he'd expose my father-in-law's various affairs. Yes, it turns out that my father-in-law cheated numerous times on my mother-in-law till he passed away 2 years ago. According to my husband, my father-in-law was paying for intimate favors even when he only had a month left to live. This is deeply disturbing because my father-in-law and mother-in-law appeared to have a loving marriage. Apparently, that was just for show. I can't even begin to imagine how my husband is feeling. We talked about it, and he said he feels deep shame for keeping it from me, but also shame because his parents' marriage wasn't at all what they pretended it was. My husband and I are still looking for a couples therapist who specializes in interracial marriage. My husband is also looking for a therapist of his own after the conversation with my mother-in-law opened his eyes to a lot of other traumas and issues he feels haven't been properly worked through. I'm so proud of him for taking these steps. Now, onto how the conversation on Wednesday went, which is, of course, why I made this update, to continue to vent. As I mentioned in my first update, my husband went over to my mother-in-law's house to inform her that her behavior is unacceptable and will be going no contact for the foreseeable future. My mother-in-law didn't take this well. The irony is that she told my husband he couldn't keep her from her only grandchild. Funny, because she spent the week claiming our daughter wasn't his. She threw some colorful insults at me, claiming he was never like this before he met me and that this was all my idea to hide my apparent affair. In response, my husband said that if she's so certain I'm cheating and that our daughter isn't his, she can pay for a paternity test and hire a private investigator to find my affair partner. You know, the affair partner that doesn't exist. My husband says my mother-in-law's face turned a comical shade of red, and he swears there was steam coming from her ears. This is when my mother-in-law said she'd press charges, and my husband responded that he'd just tell everyone about my father-in-law's serial cheating. My mother-in-law apparently burst into tears, got down on her knees, wailing that he couldn't leave her. My husband just pushed her off and left. I had already blocked her number so she couldn't contact me, but she blew up my husband's phone until he came home and blocked her. My husband is going to send her an email reiterating what he said about no contact. He will state that until she proves she's gotten help, understands she was wrong, and apologizes, she won't be seeing any of us. Both of my husband's sisters called us to get the scoop and agreed to set the record straight with anyone who tries to get a hold of us on behalf of my mother-in-law or echoes her conspiracy theories. Anyone who wants to back her up can crowdfund for a paternity test and private investigator. We've spent too long building up our finances to waste them on the ravings of a mad woman. My husband and I did read comments on the posts, I did tell him about it and show him, and we both thank you for the support and helpful comments. I love this man so much, and I'm so lucky to call him my husband and the father of my little girl. We'll be celebrating my mother-in-law being out of our lives by taking our daughter out to eat at a nice steakhouse and seeing a movie later. Wishing everyone love, and thank you again for all the support. Edit. I forgot to add this, but she also threatened grandparents' rights on the grounds that I endangered my daughter by taking the medication I use for my autoimmune disease during pregnancy. We doubt she'll actually go forward with that, but we will consult a lawyer regardless.